Hi guys, Arthur here from Homeowner DIY. Today what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to replace an ignition coil on my 2000 Civic here. So guys, when I was doing my water pump, I went to go and start the car, run its operating temperature, make sure everything was good before I finished putting everything back together. Well, the car would turn over, but it wouldn't start. So what they do is they call this a crank no start condition. So if a car won't start, generally it'll be one of three things. It'll be fuel, air, or spark. This being my car, the spark plugs were new, leads were new, cap and rotor for the distributor were new. I just did the ignition switch. I could hear the fuel pump turning on, so I was able to eliminate a lot of different things. I eventually came to the conclusion it was the ignition coil. So guys, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you uh, the ignition coil, how to get to it, how to test it, and then all the issues I ran into. So by the end of this video, you should have a fairly informative video because this problem I ran into problems everywhere. Every step of the way, something did not go quite right. So what I'll do now is I'll show you where the ignition coil is, and then we'll do material and tools. All right, guys, so this is the distributor. The ignition coil is on the inside of this cap. Our engine block, our leads. So what I'm going to do is we'll disconnect the battery over there, and then we'll get the ignition coil out. Guys, what I will do as we go along, I will show you step by step what I did to figure out this was the problem. Once again, I suggest starting at the very end and then working your way backwards. But what we'll do now is material and tools. All right, guys, this is our materials list. So this is the original ignition coil. The new one is pretty much an exact replacement. I am going to replace my one coolant hose underneath the distributor. That is what this one. Guys, I recommend to take your old hose so you can compare it, because the way that this thing is curved is to mimic the original hose. The original hose is original to the car, so for right here, let's just replace it. This hose here, this is going to be for the reservoir. As I pointed out in my coolant flush video, there's a black slime in my reservoir. That's because the hose is deteriorating. This here, this is the gasket for the distributor. Mine has been leaking forever, and taking it off, I broke it as well. So, I mean, we're here. Let's replace it because I've had just a ton of oil caked on the one side of the engine. And then we have our engine degreaser. Guys, this is what I need for material. So what we'll do now is the tools list. Alright guys, this is our tools list. So we have socket sets. I have a pan for the coolant when I change out the one hose. We have a multimeter, a spark plug, flathead screwdriver, 10mm box end wrench, water pump or channel lock pliers, and then gloves. Guys, this is what I need for tools for this job, so let's get started. Alright guys, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to test to make sure that the car is getting spark. So I'm going to leave these spark plugs in, and I'm going to take a spark plug and put it onto the end of the lead. Now guys, make sure that the spark plug is touching the valve cover so it is grounded properly. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to shut off the lights. I'm going to try starting the car, and we're going to see if we get a spark. Alright guys, this is our spark plug. I've connected it to the lead, and it is touching the valve cover. So what I'm now going to do is I'm going to try starting the car, and we're going to see if we get a spark from the spark plug. Alright guys, you saw the spark. That's because the ignition coil is working. But when I tested this, I didn't get a spark. So what I did was I took the spark plug out. I moved to the next lead. I did the same thing. Put it in. I tested it. I didn't get a spark, so I did it to the next lead as well. No spark. I went to the last lead. No spark. So that was my indication that it was the ignition coil that was bad. All right, first thing we're going to do is we're going to disconnect our battery. Guys, make sure if there's a stereo radio code that you know what it is. Guys, take a big, thick towel, a shirt or something. Make sure that you put a barrier so you don't accidentally energize the system. Alright, so this is our plug for the distributor. You can see the damage here. I was never able to get this plug out from the bottom, but guys, this is what I did. I took a flathead, and then I went around on both sides. I took another flathead to the other side as well, and I tried to get the whole thing up. I don't know if this thing is like arced itself together, but I wasn't able to get the plug, so I had to leave it as it was and continue on. This alone cost me 40 minutes, and I didn't accomplish anything. That was one of my many problems. But guys, with that in mind, what I'll do now is we will take off the distributor cap. So there's 1, 2, 3 bolts, and then we will take this off and move it off to the side. All right, I'm going to remove the distributor cap. So these are 8mm bolts. There's 3 of them. All right, guys, so this is our distributor. This is our distributor rotor. It has a cover here, and then this is our ignition coil that's under this side here. So guys, really quickly, for the distributor rotor, you need to get this screw lined up. This is a number 2 Phillips. If it is off and you can't see it, what you need to do is just keep cranking the engine until it lines up. But this is close enough that I can probably get this to work. Alright guys, with the screw removed, we can take off the distributor rotor. Alright, so this is our ignition coil here. You have 1 screw here that hold it on. So guys, if you see down here, I stripped these screws. I wasn't able to get it out, so I had to take a Dremel to get these screws out. But you got 2 wires. I would normally take this entire thing off, but since I couldn't get the plug apart, I had to leave the distributor in the engine and just take off the ignition coil itself and put that on the bench. Alright guys, before I forget, so right here, I scratched this last time with the screwdriver, but make a mark across. That way we will have an idea of where the distributor needs to go back on. It doesn't have to be perfect, but let's save ourselves a headache here in the future. Alright, so guys, these are 12mm bolts. Really quickly, I disconnected the battery and then I put an old shirt between, just so we don't accidentally energize the system. Alright, so all 3 bolts are the same, so it doesn't matter which order you put them back. Alright guys, this is our distributor. Alright guys, this is our ignition coil. So you see that it's a tech. Guys, be aware of what type of ignition coil that you have, because it's going to change the range of what the numbers are going to be. So we have terminal A, terminal B, negative, positive, and then this is our secondary winding. So guys, the first thing that I notice is you can see right here the slight burn mark. So this would go over like that, and then the screws go to here. So we have the slight burn mark here. When we flip it over to the other side, you can see here, here, and here. A lot more of a burn mark. But guys, to test this, what I'll do first is test the terminals A and B. So what it says in the manual is zero point 0.6 to zero point 0.8. So we'll go to 200. Sorry, I'm in the wrong place. So for ohms here, this is our resistance. We're going to go to the 200 range. So I've got it like that. And we're 1.4, 1.5. So this is almost double, 1.3. 0.6 to 0.8 is what the range should be. So the resistance is way too high. All right, so that's one test. And now we're going to do the other test. So in the middle here, you have a protrusion. You don't actually want to go to the protrusion. You want to go to the side. But what I'll do is I'm going to put this to A. I'll put that to the secondary winding. So we're going to switch it to 20,000. This one is 13 to 19,000 ohms. So we'll put that there, and then we'll go to the side right there, and then we'll look at what our reading is. So we're at the low end, but we're within the range. So I believe the A and B terminals are no good. The primary is no good, but the secondary is okay. But guys, this is what I replaced, and the car started right away. So this is no good. Like I said, the char marks that you can see here was a quick indication, but this was original to the car, and it took almost 400,000 kilometers for it to stop working. All right, guys. First thing, we're going to take our reservoir hose, and we're going to just slide it over. All right, guys. So I'm going to take a moment with our degreaser or super clean, and just spray down the couple areas. I did this last time, but like I said, the O-ring here, which is this one here, I broke it taking off. This thing has been leaking for quite some time. Alright guys, so this is the O-ring. So we'll take a little bit of engine oil and then coat the O-ring. And then the O-ring will sit back here. Alright, so that is on. So what I'll do now is I'm going to replace this old hose with a new one. And actually, I think it was starting to bulge here. Guys, again, this is right underneath the distributor, so it's going to be very tough to see. But with our channel locks, we'll take the old clamps off. Alright, this is our new hose. So compress it to slide it over. Alright, so this end of the hose will go over this here. So make sure that the clamp is in a place that's easy to be able to reach. And make sure that you slide the clamp down so you can get the hose over nice and easy. So with the hose pushed all the way on, alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the distributor back on. So guys, once again, the two screws, take them out, slide off the old ignition coil. You'll have to take these screws out as well. And then slide it in, put these two screws back in, put these two screws back in. So you're going to have to line this up with what's inside, otherwise it's not going to go on. And then guys, once again, line up the marks roughly. Okay guys, one thing to keep in mind, make sure that the screw is pointing up. If you turn it the other way around, I don't think you can put this on backwards, but make sure that the screw is pointing upwards so you're able to get the rotor back on. Alright, next we're going to put the cover back on. I even managed to break the clip part, but that's fine. Guys, again, the material here is so old that, I mean, now it's all brittle. Alright guys, so this is the distributor. It'll only go on one way. It has a flat part, that's where the screw goes. So just slide it on. Line up the holes. And this distributor isn't even old, and it's got a crack right there. Alright, so line it up over the hole. Put the screw back in. Guys, don't forget the lock washer. Alright, with that in, we'll put the cap back on. Alright, this is not a Honda distributor, it's an aftermarket, but make sure that you tighten it down just to compress this ring here. Guys, don't go crazy about this because you can crack the plastic. Alright, so we're going to get our hose back on. There's a clip here, so get it into the clip, and then it's going to go to there. Alright, so let's get our clip on. So guys, once again, slide it down. Slide it over. And then compress and then slide down the clamp. Alright, let's reconnect the battery. Alright, let's start the car and see if everything works. Alright guys, so that concludes this job. So guys, really quickly, because I replaced the one heater hose for the cooling system, there's going to be air in the system, so you need to bleed the air out of the system. Guys, at the end of this video, I'll link the coolant flush that I did so you can see how I did it. What you need to do is get the engine up to operating temperature, turn on the blower to maximum, the heat onto maximum, and then take off the radiator cap and allow the engine to run to get the air out. Guys, if you don't do this, your engine will overheat. The time on this job, so for the ignition coil, it was about 2.5 hours. The single biggest problem I had was trying to take the plug out. I couldn't do it, so I had to abandon that idea and just remove the ignition coil itself. The cost of this job, the ignition coil itself was $60. The couple hoses and the O-ring, those were $35 that I'm not going to include because that was something just, I was already here, so I went ahead and do that. Guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you learned something. I hope something here is going to help you on your project when you need to go ahead and do that. guys, till next time, please hit the like button, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next